Game Quest is brought to you by Smoky Mountain Organics. It's East Tennessee's most trusted health and wellness store, focusing on natural products and organic remedies to a variety of ailments. You can visit one of the 4 locations located in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and the newest location at 8018 Kingston Pike, across from the Trader Joe's in Knoxville. Smoky Mountain Organics features the best brands in CBD products, bath and body care items, organic teas, and has the largest selection of plant therapy essential oils in Tennessee, plus many more items. So if you head on over to any of the in-store locations, again, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevierville, and right across the street from the Trader Joe's at 8018 right in Knoxville, and mention you're a Vol fan, mention VolQuest, you're going to get 15% off your total purchase price. That's on in-store purchases only. Big thanks to Smoky Mountain Organics, a proud sponsor of VolQuest.com. Your game quest for Kentucky, it starts now.
It's another game day for Tennessee football and first-year head coach Josh Heupel. Get in the know with Game Quest, a VolQuest pregame podcast with Ben McKee and Eric Kane. Game Quest starts now.
Welcome to Game Quest Kentucky edition. I'm Eric Kane alongside Ben McKee. Looking forward to diving into the ins and outs of this matchup. Tennessee looking to avenge a 34-7 defeat that took place at Neyland Stadium at the hands of Kentucky last season. That was only the first win inside Neyland Stadium since 1984 for Kentucky. But new year, new teams, a lot of new personnel, and it should be an exciting game up in Lexington at Kroger Field. Ben, I'm looking forward to a good game, and I think this is a game that Tennessee desperately needs, and I think it's a game where Tennessee can go up there and get.
Absolutely. Happy game day. It'll be a fun evening at Kroger Field, and I know Tennessee fans like to joke on Kentucky, and rightfully so, but I've been there the past 2 times. Tennessee has been there, 2017, 2019. 19 was jammed packed. I don't know if it was sold out, but it was a big crowd by their standards. It was almost completely full, and it was a great college football atmosphere. Not anything like Alabama or Tennessee or Auburn or A&M, so on and so forth. Nothing like Tennessee's, but it was still a really good college football atmosphere. It was the same in 2017 as well. And I saw an email this morning that was sent my way from Kentucky's athletics communication saying that tonight's game is sold out. So it'll be a fun college football environment, and Tennessee is going to have to be on its P's and Q's, because I don't think Kentucky is what I necessarily thought it was a couple of weeks ago, and we'll get into that. But Kentucky is still more than capable of beating Tennessee, so it should be a fun football game.
Yeah, I got a column coming out before kickoff, and it's not your grandfather's Kentucky, but it's still Kentucky nonetheless. What I mean by that, and I'll get in more detail in the column. Hope you guys enjoy it, but it's one of those where Tennessee can't take Kentucky for granted right now at this stage in the rebuild, and it really hasn't. It really couldn't for the last 4 or 5 years or so, because just as you saw last year, Kentucky is a good enough team. It's well coached. It's good enough for the line of scrimmage to where it can smack you in the mouth and it can beat the crap out of you if you don't come in ready to go. And again, you saw that last year. But I think with Josh Heupel, that will not be the case much longer. Hopefully. But I think Mark Stoops done a fine job there. But I think this is a team that Tennessee fans expect to win from every single year. And to their credit, it should be a win it should be, because Tennessee should never be out recruited by Kentucky. That's just point blank. But right now it is. And again, hopefully, that will change and that narrative will change moving on. I like the trajectory of Josh Heupel, moving forward. And I just think this is a game to where it does not resonate with the Floridas, the Georgias, the Alabamas. I don't think fans view Kentucky just like Vanderbilt, but fans view Kentucky as a game that Tennessee should win. I mean, for years and years and years, it was you sweep the end of the regular season, Kentucky and Vanderbilt. It's not been the case as often really since 2010. But it's still a game, in my opinion, Ben, that Tennessee should win every single year. But you can't take him for granted, because Mark Stoops has done more than any coach in America with what he's been given.
Absolutely. Mark Stoops is doing a great job at Kentucky, and it's kind of funny that if Kentucky were to win out and go 10-2, they'd probably be playing in the Sugar Bowl.
Yep.
And if Tennessee beats Kentucky tonight, they're going 9-3 and not going to a Sugar Bowl, and their fans are going to be upset. And that just speaks to how far Mark Stoops has come at Kentucky. And again, he deserves a ton of credit. The fact that Kentucky fans would be upset with a 9-3 season, and they would be upset because they feel that they did not take advantage of what is a relatively easy SEC schedule to start 6-1 and beat Florida, beat LSU, and then to lose to Mississippi State, to lose to Tennessee. Kentucky fans will be very frustrated. So I think it's funny to hear that conversation this week when you look back and see what Kentucky was with Joker Phillips before Mark Stoops got that job. So Mark Stoops has done a tremendous job. But to your point, Eric, it's still, even with Mark Stoops being tremendous at Kentucky, Tennessee should never lose this football game, because at Tennessee you have better football players, you have better resources to go out and get better football players. And I'm not naive to think that Tennessee should win every single season it plays Kentucky. That just does not happen. It's unrealistic to think that Tennessee is going to beat Kentucky for 50 straight years, but it should be the expectation that Tennessee should win, if that makes sense, because at Tennessee, you should be better at football than Kentucky every single season.
Yeah. And I would agree. I think the streaks of 26, the streaks of 31 that Florida had Kentucky by, those, I'm not sure. I'm sure there are current winning streaks that rival those right now that are ongoing, but those are a lot of the past right now, just because we're in an age to where resources are more readily available. Name, image, and likeness is going to change all that. But yeah, this is a game that Tennessee should get every single year, and I think Tennessee's kind of back onto that path. And this is a game to where, and we're going to break it all down here in a moment, to where it is as much respect as I have for Mark Stoops and for Kentucky and this ball club right now. In my opinion, this is the same old Kentucky. It's great at the line of scrimmage, good on defense. Offensively, tries to ugly things up. It's going to slow it down, and it is not equipped to play from behind. And so I think that is a key for Tennessee moving forward. We're going to get into all that, and I promise, but just briefly, just a couple of minutes, I do want to bring up the major news item of the week. And Ben, it dropped obviously on Thursday. We were all over it, and Jimmy Himes is on it, and the national media took it over and everything. But it's a huge story. It's that of the internal investigation is over at the University of Tennessee. It's been going on a year. I mean, it started last November. It obviously resulted in the firing of former head coach Jeremy Pruitt for impermissible recruiting benefits and all that, allegedly. And, there's still some more to come with this in terms of whenever the NCAA finally circles back around. But from a Tennessee perspective, it spent $1 million investigating its own. It's had the NCAA involved the entire time. No postseason bowl ban, which we didn't think that was going to be a thing to begin with. There will be some self-imposed recruiting restrictions at some point to be made aware, but I think this is an important step for Tennessee to, okay, we've gone past this part of the process. Now it's up to the NCAA. We can move on. The coaching staff now has something they can tell prospects who have a lot of questions.
Yeah, two things that come to mind in relation to this news that Brent Hubbs was able to get a hold of and break is that, I think it's the right decision. I do think that with everything that was going on, firing your football coach and 8 other assistants, 8 other people who worked for Tennessee football, a total of 9 people, I believe it was, to me, that's sufficient enough of a punishment. And at least in terms of self-imposed punishments. And Tennessee's still going to self-impose some other restrictions. It's just going to be very, very small things and nothing that amounts to the type of thing of self-imposing a bowl ban. So Tennessee is not getting off scotch-free, as some of the national media members or even SEC media members wanted to make it seem. Like, Tennessee had to fire its football coach, had to fire a bunch of people on the football staff. That's a pretty significant punishment. And I realize there's the fact that what played into Tennessee being willing to get rid of Jeremy Pruitt was the fact that the on-field play was very subpar and was trending in the wrong direction, quite frankly, spiraling out of control. I do believe personally that if Jeremy Pruitt had been successful and was winning and showed signs of a good football coach, I think Tennessee would have stood by Jeremy Pruitt. Quite frankly, I think if Jeremy Pruitt was a good football coach here at Tennessee, I don't think that this ever would have come out, quite frankly. So that's a different conversation, but just trying to keep it simple and sweet. That is a punishment to still have to fire your football coach and fire other staff members. And again, no self-imposement of a bowl game, but they'll self-impose some other penalties that just don't hit as hard as a bowl ban. So it's not like Tennessee's getting off scotch-free. So that's the first thought. I do agree with Tennessee not self-imposing a bowl ban because I think most of the cancer, so to speak, is out of this program. And then B, what you brought up, this is huge for recruiting. I've talked to several recruits over the months. You have as well, Eric. It was something that was truly impacting Tennessee. And it was because of the unknown of what the punishment could be and how other SEC coaches were lying to these prospects, saying, if you go to Tennessee, you won't play the postseason for your entire career. It's going to be a 3-4 year postseason bowl ban. And that was never going to be the case. So for Tennessee to have that cloud removed and just out of the way, it's a huge, huge, huge weight off of the shoulders of this coaching staff that they can go out and now recruit players that were wary about possible punishments. Now these kids won't be affected by it. So A, I think Tennessee made the right decision. B, this is huge for Tennessee football in recruiting.
Yeah, and to go on another point of what you said, you fired Jeremy Pruitt, you fired 2 assistants, you fired 7 more off the field staffers, everything. You completely restarted. You had to find a new athletics director. And more so than all that, because I do agree with you. I mean, Jeremy Pruitt was not winning, so I understand. But more so than all that, you took yet another just beating to the face, black eye after black eye after black eye after black eye. And, oh, yeah, you paid $1 million. You paid and still counting, by the way, because they're still on retainer. You paid $1 million to investigate yourself, so it's like, I understand. I get it from that perspective to where it comes off like, oh, Tennessee's not going to get anything. No, Tennessee got plenty, and there's more to come. I just think that this was such an important step to get by because we had told that this investigation was going to wrap up in the summer and then by football season, and then it just kept going on and on and on. But finally, the internal investigation is over, and Tennessee is going to move on. Ben, as we look at this Kentucky matchup, 2 teams that don't like each other. Obviously, last year was not fun for Tennessee nor Tennessee fans. But a Kentucky team that rattled off 6 straight wins to begin the season, a win over Florida, where Florida might have played its worst football game ever, and Kentucky got a bunch of breaks, but give the Wildcats credit. They pulled that out. Pounded LSU the following week. But since then has come back down to earth. Lost to Georgia on the road. Who hasn't? I'm predicting a Tennessee loss to Georgia next week. Spoilers. But also lost to Mississippi State in the worst game it played last week on the road. In those losses to Georgia, Mississippi State, Kentucky, who loves to run the football, combined for 117 rushing yards. Will Levis turned it over 3 times, 3 interceptions. Kentucky is having issues staying healthy, and Kentucky is having issues holding on to the football with Rodriguez in the backfield. This is a Kentucky team that is starting to spiral in the wrong direction, and you're right. I still think they have 3 winnable football games, and they'll win those 3 football games after this game tonight. But this would be a major, major blow yet again for Kentucky that started off the season with so many high hopes of a New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah, and that's where I think we should start our preview of this football game, especially for me and my thoughts of this football game and why I think Tennessee is going to win and why I've gotten to that point of thinking Tennessee is going to win. As many who follow my work know, I've been pretty high on Kentucky all season. Not that I thought that they were going to go out and win the SEC East or anything of that nature, but I thought this team was more than capable of winning 9 to 10 football games, and it looks like they're still going to do that. But I really think that their current record of being 6-2, them potentially getting to 9-10 wins, I don't think it's very reflective of what you imagine a 9-10 win football team being. When you hear 6-2, this Kentucky football team does not come in to the picture. If you want to see a more realistic 6-2 football team, go watch Texas A&M and Auburn play this weekend. Kentucky is not what you think a 6-2 football team would be. So again, I still think they are more than capable of beating Tennessee. It wouldn't surprise me if Kentucky beat Tennessee, quite frankly. But I have come down to earth on my thought process when it comes to Kentucky. I don't think they're nearly as good as what I thought that they were at the beginning of the season. And there's a lot of reasons for that. First off, you look at the turnover margin, -12, worst in the country, Eric. And their turnover issues are pretty baffling. And I'm more so speaking about Chris Rodriguez, their running back. He has 3 fumbles against Mississippi State last Saturday. And there's also a 2-game span earlier this season in which he fumbled 4 times within the 10-yard line, within 10 yards of the goal line. And he fumbled 4 times within a 2-game span. So Chris Rodriguez, their running back, who is really good, and apparently he is dealing with a wrist injury. So maybe that's why he is battling the fumbles. He has a fumbling issue right now. Will Levis is tied for the SEC lead in interceptions thrown. So you can't be a good football team and be 130th in turnover margin. You can't be dead last in the country at -12 in turnover margin and be a good football team, because not only are you turning the football over, you're also not creating any turnovers.
16 turnovers, 4 takeaways, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. It's just awful. And I mean, Kentucky's defense is solid. It's sound. It's not as good as Mark Stoops has had in the past, but I mean, it's 5th in the league, and yards given up, total offensive yards the other way, 335. I mean, it's pretty solid against the run. Gives up just 116. I mean, this is a fine defense, but it gets no takeaways. I mean, you're exactly right. And when you're not getting takeaways, you can't afford to do some of the things you're doing on offense, which is just incredible. So I think that's something else that plays into Tennessee's factor, or Tennessee's way, is Tennessee's been pretty good at knocking that ball loose a couple of times this year. And the one at Alabama comes to mind, a couple other times, obviously, this season, not just interceptions, but going through there, one in Florida, ripping that ball loose and giving yourself a chance. So I think that's going to be a good opportunity tonight. Like you, man, I'm high on Mark Stoops. I'm high on what he's done at Kentucky. I got to tell you, man, as the week, when I dove into this late Sunday, early Monday morning, and was getting into my first glance and dove into the stats and watched some tape as the week has gone on and continued to study this, man, I have come on, and I will say right now, if Tennessee loses tonight, I will be surprised. I really will. In the match, or not the matchup piece, and the prediction piece that we put out there yesterday, I said that any way we spin it, any way I try to spin it, outside of Tennessee turning the football over a couple of times in the first quarter and going down by a couple scores to where Kentucky can just play keep away and slow things down and shrink the game. I mean, I don't see Tennessee losing this game. In every matchup, Tennessee's got the edge, in my opinion, especially with Rodriguez and his fumbling issues. And you're right, Rodriguez is a good back, man. He's second in the league in rushing, 809 yards, second to Tyler Beatty at Missouri, and he's a good player. But as the week has gone on, I have grown more and more confident in what Tennessee's doing. And you couple that with coming off a bye, when you're getting guys healthy, getting guys rested, you're going from back-to-back stretch where you played 193 defensive snaps in 2 weeks to a team that's last in the SEC with 61 plays a game. I mean, I think that's going to help in communication. I think that's going to help potentially get some more turnovers. I'm really confident in the way Tennessee can go out there and play tonight against this team. But again, if you don't show up, they're good enough to beat you. So it's one of those things to where this might be the most confident. And this was a true toss-up game at the beginning of the season. It was a true toss-up game as the season went along, really up until probably last week, when I was like, okay, well, I'm going to pick Tennessee to win this game, next week. Just one of those games to where I think Tennessee, it's a great opportunity for the Volunteers. This will be, if they get the win, this will be the 7th win of the season, barring a disaster against South Alabama and Vanderbilt. I mean, you're looking at a 7-5 regular season, everything going on. I mean, job well done. And the pinnacle of that would be a win tonight at Kroger Field.
7-5 would be huge, especially when you think back to the preseason, and there were some folks predicting Tennessee to win 3 and 4 football games, and just laughed at the thought of Tennessee being bowl eligible.
Shout out Rivals Mike.
I did not know that. I don't pay attention to him. Maybe I should admit that, but um, I mean, I just to give you a little pushback. I mean, I on your comment that you don't think that there's any way Tennessee, or you've examined all the matchups and just don't see Tennessee losing this football game. I think Kentucky's offensive line is more than capable of playing bully football and just absolutely putting their hands on Tennessee's defensive front and running the football down Tennessee's throat. I don't think that will happen. Tennessee's been, when you go back and you look at Tennessee against designed runs for the running back, Tennessee's actually been pretty decent against designed runs for the running back. So again, I don't think that will happen. That's my prediction, but it's a possibility because this is a defensive front that Rodney Garner is getting as much lemonade out of the lemons as he can squeeze. I'm willing to sit here and say that they are overperforming, and it still lacks talent. It still lacks depth, and that Kentucky offensive line does not lack talent, does not lack depth. That's a Kentucky offensive line where all guys are going to play in the NFL, especially their tackles and Luke Fortner on the inside. Chris Rodriguez, if he can solve his fumbling issue, he's going to play in the NFL. Wan'Dale Robinson outside, he's an NFL player and capable of, I think, single-handedly beating Tennessee because he's that explosive on offense. So I do think that there's a map to success for Kentucky, but I agree with you with what you brought up in terms of the rest. Kentucky's banged up, particularly on the defensive line in the interior, which is really good news since Cooper will be at center and Carvin left guard, Spraggins at right guard, what you want in the interior of Tennessee's offensive line. But they're also banged up on offense as well. And they've been playing a lot of football here. And it just didn't look right against Mississippi State. So I do think there's a path to a win for Kentucky. And it wouldn't be, it's because Tennessee didn't take care of business. No, I think Kentucky can prove to be better than Tennessee, but I don't think that it will because, again, Rodney Garner, Tim Banks, they're coaching their tails off. And I think the bye week is really going to come into play for Tennessee.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, like individual matchups. Like if there's one individual matchup in this game, it would be what you're talking about, Kentucky's run game against Tennessee's front seven. I would just give Tennessee the slight edge right now simply because of the fumbling issues. But again, you're right. I mean, they want to run the football. They're typically good at running the football. And if just like with Tennessee, we talk about keys to game. Tennessee needs to string together some first downs, keep drives alive. You can't go 3 and out and score some points. I mean, same way with Kentucky. I mean, especially with the clock working in its favor too. If Kentucky picks up first down, you're talking about in drives the length of the field 80 yards. I mean, you're talking about taking 6-7 minutes off the clock and coming over the points, and that's something Tennessee can't have, especially if Tennessee were to try to be playing from behind. And so, yeah, I mean, I would agree with you there. Plus, too, if I'm Kentucky, I'm crazy if I'm not running Levis on third downs, 3rd and 5 and more. I'm running Will Levis because Tennessee has not shown the ability to stop that the last 2 games. And so until Tennessee shows the ability to stop it, I'm doing it. And Levis is capable of doing that for sure. They don't run him a lot. They did a little bit against LSU. They don't run him a lot, but they should. Hell, he ran a lot at Penn State when he played. So I'm with you. There are ways, obviously, and I'm not trying to dismiss Kentucky. When you dismiss a team like Kentucky, you get punched in the face like last year. But I just look at all these matchups. I mean, Kentucky passing game, Tennessee secondary, Tennessee's. I mean, it's like going through Rob Spacey puts out every.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think a lot of matchups, if not all the matchups, are in Tennessee's favor. I agree with you, but I would put a question mark on Kentucky's running game against Tennessee's rushing defense. Like with Hendon Hooker and Tennessee's passing game against Kentucky's passing game, like I circle Tennessee. I know Tennessee is going to win that matchup. Tennessee's receivers versus Kentucky's DBs. Kentucky as a defense is allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete 2/3 of their passes. Hendon Hooker, very efficient, one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country. I know Hendon Hooker and Tennessee's receivers are going to have success. I lean towards Tennessee's running game having success against a Kentucky defensive front that is banged up, and Tennessee is healthy with Tyon back, with Cade looking like he's going to be back. Hendon's a week healthier. Jabari Smalls a week healthier. So I circle Tennessee in that matchup. Tennessee has had its special team miscues this season. So has Kentucky. Kentucky's had 3 kicks blocked this season. So Mike Eckler, although special teams has had its mistakes this year, he's also drawn up 2 punt blocks. So can Tennessee recreate that? And Josh Ali, their receiver, had a big kick return or punt return for a touchdown last week against Mississippi State.
Would have been 10 points offensively without that against Mississippi State. And Mississippi State's good against the run, but still, like, I mean, yeah,
you should
you're
have
exactly
more than
right.
10.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when you bring in Will Levis and you bring in Liam Cohen from the Rams. You return the offensive line that they did, and you return Chris Rodriguez, and you add Wan'Dale Robinson, who's one of the best receivers in the SEC. You should have more success than that. So, like, I agree with you. I think Tennessee has the edge in practically all of the matchups, but I do put a question mark on, can Tennessee slow down Kentucky running the football? That's the only thing I question. I lean towards, yes, Tennessee will be able to contain the run, but I'm going to have to also see it to believe it.
I'm a big fan of watching good football players, and I thought what Kentucky was going to get out of Will Levis was going to be a good football player, and I still think he's got a ton of potential. Much like Tennessee, they struggle to complete the down the field passing in terms of like a big play, deep threat. They don't challenge it nearly. I mean, if one thing you know about Josh Heupel, they're going to challenge the deep balls early and often, and they're going to do it until they get it right. And Tennessee got it right so far this year, but there was a time where all we could talk about was the deep throws, the overthrows. Levis is having issues connecting on those so far this year. I thought Kentucky was going to get a quarterback and they could finally have a piece to make that offense go a little bit. And he's got a ton of talent. I mean, he's third on the team in yards gained in terms of rushing. He scored 3 times there. I mean, he's thrown some nice balls, completing it at a decent percentage. He just turns it over, man. 9 interceptions. He's fumbled. He's had his fair share of fumbling issues too. And when the game is shut down, or when the opponent shut down the run game, Mississippi State, Georgia, and the ball is placed in his hands, he can't go win you he at least has not shown the ability to go out there and win you a football game yet. Look at Florida too. I mean, Florida, he was 7 of 17, 87 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Kentucky won that game, but they got a lot of help, and it really, in my opinion, wasn't because of Will Levis. And so you just hope that he won't be he won't show out to be a talented player here tonight against Tennessee. But I think he's been a disappointment for Kentucky, especially for Mark Stoops and kind of what he thought he was getting. I mean, Mark Stoops, he was aggressive in the offseason. I think he was trying to change up his offense a little bit. Fired Eddie Gran, fired the quarterback's coach, went out, brought in some NFL talent and Cohen and got this, Levis, the quarterback, brought in Robinson. Just hadn't panned out. It looks like the same old Kentucky on offense, which again is a good running team, big offensive line, but struggling to score points in a hurry, come from behind, slows things down. I mean, they just make everything ugly. And that's kind of the same case for this week.
And they take deep shots. They do. They just haven't been able to hit on them. I mean, go back and watch the Mississippi State game, and there were, 3 or 4 deep shots that were open. Not only did they take the deep shots, but they were open and they just couldn't hit. I mean, on one, a receiver had alligator arms. On one, Will Levis overthrew the receiver. Another one was underthrown. I mean, it was just bad. And then a couple of other ones got picked off because he tried to force it. And they've really struggled with the deep ball since the Chattanooga game, which was in September, very early in the season. This is from SEC StatCat, which is a good follow on Twitter if you're not already following them. But since the UTC game, Kentucky is 0 for 10 with 2 interceptions on deep balls since the Chattanooga game. 0 for 10. 2 interceptions, and on passes,
we would be losing our minds right now if that was the stretch for Tennessee.
Yes,
for over a month stretch.
We would be. I don't even want to think about it. And then on passes, even just 10 yards or more down the field, Kane, Kentucky is 12 for 33, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and when they do complete one, it's 6.4 yards per attempt. So Kentucky is really struggling through the air. You have to be aware of where Wan'Dale Robinson is at all times, but he is the only thing that should concern Tennessee through the air. And then vice versa, to your point about Tennessee's deep balls, I think you're going to see Tennessee take some shots. They're going to try to establish a run, and I know they already try to take deep shots, but Kentucky's corners have been very inconsistent this season. And we're talking about, again, as I said earlier, a Kentucky defense that is allowing opponents to complete 2/3 of their passes. Hendon Hooker, very efficient. I expect Velus, Cedric, Javonte all to have pretty good games.
Yeah, I mean, this was a team that did not have questions at cornerback coming into the season. You had Cedric Dork, you've got Mosley there and a couple of other guys, but no, you're right. They have struggled specifically. I mean, everybody struggled last week. Rogers was 36 of 39 last week. I mean, goodness gracious. So yeah, I would agree with that as well. But I mean, what I want to know is where the heck is Josh Ali gone, man? I mean, when I went back and checked the participation charts and everything, I mean, he had missed games, right? I mean, I haven't seen him missing any games.
He's been banged up this year.
Yeah, but I mean, so you got Robinson leading the team with the 58 receptions. Ali is the second leading receiver at 19. I mean, and he's a good player throughout his career, right? But obviously he's had his struggles as well. So this is just a team that I think that there is talent there. It just hasn't clicked at all. And I think Tennessee should take advantage of that. You should be getting healthier back there in the secondary as well. We mentioned the guys for Tennessee that'll be healthy on the offensive line, Tyon in the backfield. Elijah Simmons hopes to maybe try to give it a go. We'll have to see. I think he'd be like characterized as a game time decision, but that'd be big if he could get out there in that rotation, give you a little bit. He hadn't played since Missouri, I don't believe. So any way I spin it, I look at it, I feel like Tennessee should not lose this football game, but I do think it'll be a good one. I think I had my final prediction at 31-17. I could see Tennessee scoring more than 31 as well. Where did you have this game?
34-27.
Okay. So you got a little bit closer.
I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think Kentucky is nearly as bad as people have made them out to be this week. Again, I've come down on thinking that they're a good football team. I just think they're an average, solid football team that has benefited from a relatively easy SEC schedule. And if you flip schedules, give Kentucky's Tennessee's and give Tennessee's Kentucky's, I think that Kentucky is definitely not 6-2 and Tennessee's not 4-4.
Kentucky doesn't beat Pittsburgh right now, do you think? I don't think
they don't beat Pittsburgh. They don't beat Alabama, obviously.
They've beaten Florida once, so you got to give them credit. But I think if they play 10 times, I think Florida wins 6 or 7 of them.
I don't know. I think that's a wash. I think that's a coin flip. I think Florida has big issues.
Hey, Kentucky and Florida 2-2 in the last 4 years, and Kentucky, of course, won down there in 2018. I love that little rivalry going back and forth here lately.
Yeah, it's been good back and forth. So I'm with you. I don't think that they beat Pitt. They're not 6-2 is what I'm getting at. Yeah. And Tennessee is above 500. So, and Kentucky also not beating Ole Miss. So I think Kentucky is not as good as I thought that they were at the beginning of the season, and that they've benefited from an easy schedule. So I have my score a little closer. So my point is that although I've kind of come down on Kentucky, I still don't think that it's just a cakewalk as many are talking about. I think people are forgetting that Tennessee still does lack talent, still lacks depth. Kentucky may not have a ton of talent, but they do have depth because Mark Stoops has established that football program. Josh Heupel and his offense, they're squeezing more than they should squeeze. Tennessee's defense squeezing more than that coaching staff should squeeze, if that makes sense. So I think it'll be a close, competitive football game that both teams hate each other and both teams really want to win.
Hey, you're using that. You're squeezing all you can out of that lemon analogy here today, aren't you?
Yeah, I see what you did there. I like it.
I will say I think Kentucky lacks depth at running back because they don't play anybody else other than Smoke and Rodriguez. But no, I'm with you. And again, I in no way, shape, or form am I guaranteeing a victory. I just the more and more I've gone over this, I've talked about this, I keep getting more and more confident in Tennessee. I would be more surprised if Kentucky won by 7-10 than if Tennessee won by 3. If that says anything, that's just the way I see that game. But hey, I have been wrong before. I will be wrong plenty more times. So we'll have to see how it plays out. That's why you play the game. But I mean, what Mark Stoops has done with what he's been given has been so impressive, so flipping impressive. And there's a reason why Kentucky's not just a doormat anymore. Bowl prediction time. I'll go first. I very much missed badly on my bowl prediction against Alabama. But I'm going to say with the run game, you got a healthy Tylen Evans. Jabari Small is going to be in there. You're getting healthy the offensive line, front seven that's very talented. You know, Josh Paschal. You've got JJ Weaver on the edge there. You got Jones in the middle at linebacker. They're missing a couple guys in the interior. I get that, but I'm going to get Tennessee going back to normal in the run game. I'll say Tennessee runs for a buck 65. At least. Maybe that's not too bold.
It's not bold enough, sir.
Is that not bold enough?
It's not bold. I don't think so.
I'm not saying 200. I'll go a buck 80. Give me a buck 80 on the ground, and Tennessee.
That's not that bold either.
Tennessee's going to have not a 100-yard rusher, but Tennessee's going to have 2 guys that get over 60 yards.
Which guys?
Well, of course. Oh, well, I guess we counted Hooker. I think Small and Evans will both get over 60 yards. I think they'll both score touchdowns, and I think Tennessee will be knocking on the door to 200 rushing yards.
Yes, and I don't think your yardage is very bold, but
maybe I'm trying to play it safe this week because I was so bad against Alabama.
But where I do think it is bold though, Kane, is like even though it's like 200 is bold in my opinion, like 160, 180 is a great day on the ground.
Yep.
And it's bold to predict Tennessee to have a great day on the ground against a Kentucky rushing defense that's barely allowing over 100. They've been pretty solid against the run. So it'll be a massive success if I do think it's bold, just not the yardage. I think Tennessee having a great day on the ground against a good Kentucky rush defense is a bold prediction. Mine is that all 3 of Tennessee's receivers have a deep ball completion. I think Cedric Tillman, Velus Jones, and Javonte Payton all have a completion of 40 or more yards.
Now, for like a guy like Velus, will it be a deep ball throw, or will it be something underneath that he gets 40 yards with that yak?
I could see either happening. I was kind of thinking of, do you remember that skinny post that he caught over the middle of the field against Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
After Hooker came in.
Yeah.
It was late in the game. Tennessee marched right down the field and tied the game up. Or maybe it was South Carolina. It was South Carolina. It was a South Carolina game right after
South Carolina for sure, yeah.
After South Carolina had the stupid trick play at the goal line and threw an interception in the end zone with its defensive lineman, Jordan Birch. It was on that drive. Hendon turned around and just an absolute missile over the middle of the field to Velus. That's more so what I have in mind for Velus. With Tillman and Payton, I think they catch 2 deep ball touchdowns. I don't know what yardage, but I think bona fide deep balls like Tillman had against Alabama, like Payton has done against Florida. Those are the type of deep balls that I think Tillman and Payton have. And then I'll just keep it simple and say Velus, just a 40-yard reception, whether that's on an easy little screenplay or a skinny post over the middle of the field. I think these receivers and Hendon are going to have success. Kentucky secondary just isn't all that great and have been really inconsistent this season.
Like, I'm not a coach. I consider myself a football junkie, football nerd. I appreciate so much when I watch stuff on film. When I was watching on film, and I caught a little bit of it in real time, but you know how it is. You're up in the press box. Everything's going by so quick, and you're doing 10 different things. When I forgot his name. When I saw that cornerback with his back turned, playing 7 off, and Tennessee just sees it and snaps it. And I mean, hey, Cedric Tillman, he is not the fleetest of foot. Now we know that, but he got separation, caught that thing. I'm like, against Alabama, that's what you got to do every single time. You got to take advantage of those miscues. And hey, Tennessee credit, man, Alabama had a lot of miscues, 2 pre-snap penalties for Alabama. Nick Saban was losing his mind. And so that's those type of things you can see, okay, well, you know, Tennessee's being coached well. They're recognizing that type of stuff. And that's why I think Tennessee's on the right path here. But here's what I want to know, and what, you know, everybody really listening wants to know. We're about to get in the car. We're about to spend the entire day with Austin Price, really 2 days. How are we going to survive this?
Well, thankfully, it's less than 24 hours. Thankfully, it's not 2 days. Quit making it longer than
Saturday into Sunday. You're right. It's
less than 24 hours.
Oh, that's the way 23 hours. Yeah.
Yes, that's the way I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this as less than 24 hours, not 2 days. That makes it seem like hell, quite frankly. And here's the other thing: we only have to be in the car for him. We really only have to be with him for 6 hours, if my math's right. 2.5 there, or 5 hours, whatever. I can't do math on this early in the morning. It's 5. Thank you very much. 2.5 there, 2.5 back. We really only have to be with him in the car, because when we're at the game, we can choose to walk away from him.
And he's the mayor. You know, he'll be going off doing all his, you know, he's the mayor. So,
well, in Lexington, he Austin Price in Knoxville is what Matt Jones is in Knoxville.
Oh, really? See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Matt Jones, not liked here.
Well, I know that, but Austin Price, he's hated in Lexington.
No, but he'd be the one walking around and pissing people off by making some comments, probably. So, not the mayor of Lexington for sure. So we can walk away from him if we choose to. And then, like tomorrow night when we're at the hotel, he's staying with Hubs in Hubs' room, so we won't be around him then either. So really, we only have to be around him in the car. And I guess technically we are going to lunch on the way up there, which means we'll have to sit in a McDonald's drive-through for at least 2 hours. Yet again. So man, I don't know.
You're driving, you know, he won't let me have front seat. So I might just,
oh yeah, that's true.
I might just get in that back seat and sleep.
You just, we have a rendezvous point. You just need to get there before he does and get in the car before he can.
Boom. That's coming up here this afternoon. Of course, Tennessee at Kentucky, 7:00. The Volunteers looking for win number 5 on the season, win number 3 in Southeastern Conference play. Got so much coverage here at VolQuest.com. Of course, we'll have a live thread going during the game, 2-minute drill before kickoff, and tons post-game press conference from coaches and players. We'll have our mini pod afterwards. Rob will have 4 things he learned, all that type of stuff, all that coverage for Tennessee at Kentucky coming up at VolQuest.com. Game Quest brought to you by Smoky Mountain Organics. Remember, it's East Tennessee's most trusted health and wellness store, focusing on natural products, organic remedies, and a variety of elements. Visit one of the 4 locations: Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and the newest location right here in Knoxville at 8018 Kingston Pike, across from the Trader Joe's. And when you go in there, mention VolQuest, you'll get 15% off your total purchase on the price. So that's on in-store purchases only. Big thanks to Smoky Mountain Organics. For Ben McKee, I'm Eric Kane. Happy game day, everybody, as Tennessee heads up to Lexington to try to get a win at Kroger Field. This has been Game Quest, your Kentucky edition.
You've been listening to Game Quest, a VolQuest pregame podcast with Ben McKee and Eric Kane. Stay dialed in to VolQuest.com for complete game day coverage. This has been Game Quest, a VolQuest production.